Hi everybody, welcome to Sunya and welcome back to the environment high yielding topics. This is the part 2 of the environment report and indices. Okay, if you're seeing this lecture for the first time, please go back and see the part 1 in which we have covered 15 or I think more than that very prominent reports. Okay, so continuing with that, the number 1 report today which we are doing is Restoration Barometer report. And in case if you're seeing, as you can see the indices section of the Samadhan current affairs. Okay, so in that many of these reports you will find. So the page number here is 169 in case you are referring from that. Okay, now Restoration Barometer. Okay, let's say if you get this report, it will be difficult for you to tell that this is by IUCN. Okay, so that one thing of course is the body. IUCN was formed in 1948. Okay, and is a very important environmental body. You must have read IUCN when you've read the red list, okay, which it gives the green status of species, critically endangered, so on and so forth. So that is one. So this is a restoration barometer. This concept came way back in 2016. Okay, so here the idea is, in this report it talks about how can the biodiversity etc can be restored. So it talks about a restoration barometer. So there are some set of countries which gives data as to how they are doing with respect to helping the biodiversity. So that is barometer. We already know what is a barometer. So this is a restoration barometer which talks about how can biodiversity be saved. Okay, so this report is by IUCN. That is the biggest takeaway here. Okay, next report, Living Planet report. Okay, Living Planet report is published by WWF, World Wildlife Fund for Nature. Okay, now this report is important because it told us about that in the last 50 years, okay, around 69% of wildlife has been lost. Okay, that's a huge at least number, so that can be asked from you. Secondly, it talks about the area which has seen the maximum decrease, okay, in wildlife, that is Latin America and Caribbean region. Okay, Latin America and the Caribbean region has seen the maximum decline. So it's not Africa or let's say some other region, in case you're thinking about that. So even this fact can be directly asked from you. Okay, this is Living Planet report. Okay, again it talks about how a lot of deforestation is happening, how the mangroves are getting lost, etc. So that is one, but most important is this part, 69% of the wildlife lost in 50 years. That's one. And second is, it is by WWF. Okay, then State of Climate Action report. Now by the way, when we see, for example, one is you need to know who it publishes. Second, that one or two things about the body should also be known to you. So number one, this is State of Climate Action report. Now very classic trap of UPSC can be, this is published by UNEP, okay, or let's say to confuse you, WEF, World Economic Forum, by UN, WHO, whatever. Okay, so this report is actually published by Climate Action Tracker, okay, which is an independent group. It is an independent initiative, okay, so which has some scientists etc. They carry out this particular report to see how are the actions with respect to climate change are happening. So here number one you need to know is published by Climate Action Tracker, okay, which is an independent body. Okay, so let's say they say Climate Action Tracker is a UN based body etc etc, that would be incorrect. All right, so this is the State of the Climate Action report. All right, so again this question can be asked, right? Then Arctic report card. Okay, so in continuation here, so Arctic report card basically is published by, so you have this US. So US, the national, basically the Oceanic and Atmospheric, so National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is publishing this Arctic report card. Fine. Again, when I'm saying Arctic report card, we have already done a term known as Arctic amplification in the high yielding terminology series. So please see what is Arctic amplification. Second, the melting of ice sheets in the Arctic, especially Greenland, leads to decline of AMOCs, which was highlighted by the IPCC report. So that also should be known to you. So not just this, okay, but again developments. For example, this is Arctic. Then what is India's developments in Arctic and Antarctic? Okay, both these things you should know. If with respect to Antarctic, let's say the Antarctic Bill of 2022, okay, which had come about. So this is how, one, of course, we need to know exactly who's publishing which report. Again here, Arctic report card, they can confuse you saying it is published by WMO, World Meteorological Organization. That would be incorrect. It is published by this US, the Oceanic and at this Antarctic Administration, okay, by the United States. Then there is a Global Forest Declaration Assessment Report, okay. Now again, see, with respect to forest, we had already seen 2 or 3 things which were published by FAO. Now this is different. This particular declaration, number 1, is independent. It is led by the civil society. Okay, so these 2 things you need to know. Second, with respect to forest, there is a New York declaration. By the way, a question on this part was already asked by UPSC once. And in COP26, there was a Glasgow Leaders Declaration on Forest and Land Use. So I'm just writing this: Glasgow and Forest and Land Use, right? India was not a signatory to this Glasgow Forest and Land Use, so maybe even this part can be asked. So this assessment report talks about how the countries are doing with respect to these. This was in 2014, New York Declaration, and in 2026 in Glasgow. Okay, so you had Glasgow Forest and Land Use Declaration. So based on this, there is a assessment which is being carried out. Okay, so that is one thing you need to understand. Independent, this is independent and civil society led. Okay, then there is a Global Carbon Budget Report. Okay, this is by the Global Carbon Project. Okay, so again here UPSC can confuse you that this is by IPCC or some other very prominent body. So the point is, see, in the second part there are some let's say independent voluntary initiatives, because if you see in the last 2 or 3 years, they are not asking you very famous initiatives. Okay, so let's say they ask you EP100, okay, or they ask you, let's say, I think I had asked you about this climate action group or some climate action tracker also. So based on this, voluntary initiatives or these reports should also be known to you. All right, so this Global Carbon Budget Report number 1 is produced by the Global Carbon Project. Okay, that is all you need to know. And then more than that, with respect to carbon, we have seen a lot of developments. Number 1, things like what is Keeling curve, then what are types of carbon, okay, including blue carbon, black carbon, green carbon, brown carbon, right? Even that should be known to you. All right, so here this is the part I was telling you, Keeling curve. All right, so here all you need to know, it is by a Global Carbon Project. This was it is an old project. It was started way back in the year 2001. All right, and subsequent updates have been happening based on this. So again, it talks about how the global carbon budget is and how the consumption patterns of the countries are. Okay, then there is a Carbon Pricing Leadership Report. Again, because see, there is a term carbon, etc. So that is important. Now this is supported by World Bank. Okay, so there is this Carbon Pricing Leadership Report. Okay, so even that is something that you need to understand here. Okay, and overall the initiative is voluntary. This is a voluntary initiative. Okay, so that is Global Pricing Leadership Report. Is also, there is a committee of this Global Pricing Leadership Report which sets up, and financially it is supported by World Bank. Okay, and overall it is a voluntary initiative that you need to know. Okay, then there is Ozone Recovery Assessment Report. Now this is supported by World Meteorological Organization. Okay, not just WMO, even other big bodies, for example UNEP. Okay, Then ozone recovery assessment is also supported by NOAA, which we've already seen. Okay. So number one, it talks about ozone recovery assessment, right? Now with respect to ozone, you should be aware about what is Vienna Convention, what is Montreal Protocol, and what is Kigali Amendment to Montreal Protocol overall, which talks about ozone recovery, right? So number one, supported by World Meteorological Organization, UNEP, NOAA, okay. In fact, it is even supported by European Union and even NASA. Okay, so it is a multi-collaborative effort which is going to happen. This is known as Ozone Recovery Assessment Report. All right. Now there are some energy based reports again that you should be aware about. Okay, so one by one we'll see these reports. The first report is World Energy Employment Report, right? Now here again, basically you'll see a lot of reports having IEA, okay, but then there is also an body known as IRENA. IEA is Energy Agency, IRENA is International Renewable Energy Agency. Now the difference here is that to be a member of IEA, you have to be a member of OECD, okay, which is why IEA has very few members, very limited members, whereas IRENA does not have such a specific criteria, which is why it has more than 120, 30, 40 countries, right? So first of all, you need to know this difference. Then the prominent reports which are published by both of them, right? Be it IEA, okay, or be it the other one. So one is World Energy Employment Report, okay, that is the first report which we are saying. This is by International Energy Agency, IEA, okay. So which highlights overall that around 65 million people are employed in the energy sector. So that is the basic idea, highlighting that energy or energy intensive sectors has a lot of employment overall, okay. So that is one. So World Energy Employment is talking about how this particular part is going to happen, okay. And even in this, around 50% are employed in clean energy sources, okay. So that is number one that you need to know here, World Energy Employment Report. Then there is a breakthrough agenda, okay. Now breakthrough agenda again by IEA, okay, and not just here, but it also has support of IRENA, okay, and other UN high level bodies. So breakthrough agenda, first of all, is the name, right? Now this talks about sector transitions through international collaborations. So think of a breakthrough, some bodies are coming together, they're talking of a very fast transition, all right. So that is known as a breakthrough, that transition, okay. So IEA, IRENA and other UN based bodies are taking care of this. This is known as the breakthrough agenda, okay. Then again, World Energy Outlook, okay, this is a very famous report of IEA. This is World Energy Outlook. This directly you can at least know about. This is like a very old report which is going to happen, okay. Talks about forecasts with what is the energy demand of the world, how much energy will be consumed by developing, how is the world going to cope up, etc. This is by the World Energy Outlook, published by again IEA, right. Then there is a Renewable Energy Report, okay. So here basically I think this is also mentioned in your I think page number 171. So Renewable Energy Report again is by IEA. You can just mention this as Renewable Energy Report of 2022. This is again published by IEA, okay. Again, see, overall energy, it also speaks about World Energy Outlook, and it also speaks about, one second, Renewable Energy Report, okay. So even that is something that we need to know about. There is also one more thing which is very similar, that is Renewable Energy and Jobs. So that is Renewable Energy and Jobs. This is published by IRENA, okay. So Renewable Energy and Jobs, because it is jobs. So number one you have IRENA plus you have ILO, okay. I have included this here so that you can have a confusion. So number one, Renewable Energy Report of 2022 published by IEA. Renewable Energy and Jobs, and that is an annual report, is published by IRENA. and ILO. This is basically talking about Renewable Energy and Jobs Annual Review Report. Okay, so very similar names. So this I'm making a star mark because this is where somebody can get easily confused, because these are very similar sounding. The moment you see renewable, don't only think about IRENA. Okay, so there is a normal renewable energy report which is by IEA, and the renewable energy and jobs is by IRENA and ILO. 28 this is state. I told you, state of the world's forest report is published by FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. In fact, we've already seen different reports of let's say FAO with respect to forestry. One was with respect to urban forestry, right? I hope you remember that in the first lecture. So we've already seen that state of the world forest report published by FAO. Okay, and by the way, of course, this is talking of world forest. So overall, it will talk about deforestation. It will talk about the critical link between forests and people, how forests play a very important role in ecological restoration. Okay, in how the people and tribals are closely connected, and how the biodiversity can be saved if we increase our investment into saving the forest. This is state of the world's forest report. State of the world's mangrove report is published by Global Mangrove Alliance. This again talks about how the mangroves in general are threatened due to a lot of encroachment, okay, a lot of unsustainable aquaculture, shrimp farming. So that is there. Overall, with respect to mangroves, you should also know about Mishti initiative highlighted in the budget, okay, and overall there is also a SAIME initiative, SAIME, again for the restoration of mangroves, specifically in West Bengal. So India based initiatives you should know, but yeah, there is a Global Mangrove Alliance which puts out this state of the world's mangrove report. And the last report is state of the world's birds report. This is by BirdLife International. All right, we had already seen this is Wetland International, BirdLife International, right, Amnesty International, Greenpeace International. So these international things are NGOs, okay, non-governmental organizations. So again, this can be a trap. For example, one statement says state of the world's bird report is published by BirdLife International, and second, BirdLife International is a UN body, so that would be wrong. Okay, so that is one. So of course this talks about how overall the birds are doing, their migratory patterns, how they are living, extinctions, threats, etc. So that is state of the world's bird report. Okay, so I'll just quickly recap what all reports we have seen in this particular lecture. So we started with Restoration Barometer by IUCN, okay, Living Planet Report by WWF, State of the Climate Action Report by Climate Action Tracker. These days I'm telling you, independent voluntary initiatives are getting more prominence. Arctic Report Card by NOAA, Global Forest Declaration. This is an independent civil society led initiative. Global Carbon Budget Report is by Global Carbon Project. Okay. Carbon Pricing Leadership Report is again a voluntary initiative supported by World Bank. Ozone Recovery Assessment Report by multiple bodies, WMO, UNEP, NOAA, EU and NASA. World Energy Employment Report by IEA. Breakthrough Agenda by IEA, IRENA and EU, by UN. World Energy Outlook again by IEA. Renewable Energy Report by IEA, and then Renewable Energy and Jobs Update Review Report by IRENA and ILO. State of the World's Forest, this was by FAO. State of the World's Mangrove by Global Mangrove Alliance, and State of the World's Bird by BirdLife International, right? And again, this is one more set of reports which I think are the most important ones. So I'll just quickly go through it. And so state of climate, by the way, we had seen state of climate in Asia, or state of global climate, or provisional report on climate. These are by World Meteorological Organization. Climate Change Performance Index by Jaban Moch. Now you tell me how many parameters are there with respect to this report. I've shown you that graph. Okay, Climate Change Performance Index. Breakthrough Agenda, IEA, IRENA and UN. State of the Global Climate Report, again see Climate in Asia, Global Climate, this is by WMO, okay, which the headquarter is Geneva. State of the World Forest, already seen, FAO. Annual Frontiers report by UNEP. Now you tell me how many reports of UNEP have we seen? Okay. Climate Transparency report is again by experts from G20. Some of them came forward to have this report. The Living Planet report is important because of the facts which it has highlighted this year. Okay. So this is by WWF, and again drought in numbers. Again, we've seen this in the previous lectures by UNCCD. Okay. And again, if you want to avail all the very comprehensively, if you want to cover environment, you can avail the prelims crash course. This will cover all your lectures, will be available in one go. You can make good use of this. Okay. And also a very comprehensive set of notes again will be provided to you. That again will make your journey easier. And you can also supplement this with current affairs samadhan. Okay. That again will add a lot to your preparation. All right. So I hope the series of these two lectures have made you very confident in this small section of report and indices. This is very high yielding. Okay, if let's say if you get a question, it very high chance it will be in whatever we have seen. Okay, so do this well. You can just simply make now a one page, all the 30 or 34, 35 reports which we've done, the report or name of the organization, and if there is something prominent, I've told you about that. Just see it 2 or 3 times before the exam and you will be good to go. Okay. So again, I'll be meeting you in another series of high yielding topics. And by the way, you are very free to suggest us what topics you want to be included in environment. I'll do my best to cover them for you. All right. So till then, please keep revising. Thank you.